welcome Jake, and welcome everyone. It's another beautiful Friday on the Sunken Blimp Stage, and today we have another dive live for you guys, with a very special one by someone that is, very much responsible for all of this happening and being possible. And before we start, I would like to do a quick. All right, there we go. Before we start, I'd like to do a quick introduction for Jake, which needs little introduction, but nonetheless. So Jake is, as the head of community at Spatial, Jake is leading a community of artists, designers, and creators, as well as a vast network of partners in building a metaverse for culture. He has worked in the space for nearly a decade, helping everyone from Fortune 500 enterprise and customer brands to individual creators create engaging, augmented, and virtual reality experience for the audiences. And now at Spatial, he is at the unique intersection of the metaverse and NFTs, and is building this community for the next generation of internet and global connectivity. So thank you so much, Jake, for joining us in this dive live. I'm so excited for it, and the stage is yours.
Cool, thanks so much. Really awesome to be here. I appreciate the invitation. Thank you. Wow, please. Oh, stop it. No, keep it going. Don't get it. Thanks for the introduction. Is it possible to get the host ability for this space so I can briefly share this space? Thank you. Oh, perfect. Cool. So today I hate giving presentations and standing in front of a room with people staring at me. So this is very much interactive. We're gonna go. You can see the portals around the space. We're gonna do a little portal hopping today. So it's gonna be fun. If I was in another event with another group, one of the portals that I would take people to would be this, the dive live, the Sunken Blimp Stage, because this is honestly one of my favorite spaces in Spatial in terms of the architecture and the design. I think it just speaks to the types of things that people can do in the metaverse, in the sense that architecture doesn't have to be limited to four walls and a ceiling. You can really take advantage of the lack of gravity, the lack of physics, and I think this does a really nice job of that, and really kind of extends the Sunken Blimp kind of brand around sustainability really nicely, because we're underwater. I think it's just really, really cool. But I wanted to just kind of give a brief history of Spatial, and then we'll do some portal hopping. So I'm gonna share my screen here. Give me 1 second. And this is, let me see if I can make this screen cool. I'm gonna scale this guy up. Put it, I guess, over here. That makes sense. I don't know where the center of the stage is, but I'll put it over here. I'll make it really big. But so Spatial was started actually 5 years ago. Here, I'll stand at the front. Spatial was actually started 5 years ago. We've been around a long time, and started initially as a platform for the whole focus was, how can we make people feel like they're in the same space, the same room, even if they're not physically together. And this was back in 2017, so years before COVID and years before really other people were talking about that or needing that capability. And the idea was really focused on companies and enterprises, and how designers, 3D modelers, engineers, whoever they may be, can come together and do things like design products. So Ford Motor Company, for example, has used Spatial to design their cars. Mattel has used Spatial to design their toys. So I want to show two quick examples of that, and then just to see where Spatial came from, and then kind of obviously Spatial as it is today, and then go through a couple of those examples. I think some really cool spaces. So I'm just bringing up a video here in another tab. Give me 1 second. So this is a really cool example. I'm gonna share this tab here in a second. Oops, accidentally hit stop sharing. Then let's go here. So this is what Spatial was. This was, I believe, 2019. This is early 2019. And this is on stage with Microsoft when they announced the HoloLens 2. That's Microsoft's mixed reality headset. And this is showing.
Hi, Jenna.
Hi, Anand.
Basically, Spatial, the
Hey,
AR
everyone.
version
And
of
we can
Spatial.
walk
And you can
around
actually
the
do a
stage
form of
with
this
spatial audio.
AR on
When
the
we're
mobile
developing
app still
toys,
today.
like this
So if
rescue
you
here
happen-
at Fire
if you're on
Truck here,
iOS or Android,
this
you can
allows us
actually
to
switch
find
the view
potential
mode
issues
to
much
AR mode,
earlier in the
and
cycle.
you'll see other
For
people's
instance, guys,
avatars
take a look
in
at this
your
wheel
room
plans
with you.
here.
And any of the
And
art
stick right
content
onto
of
the fire
space
truck
portals
so that we
kind
can
of
have
overlaid
engineering
in the room
revises
with
later.
you. But this is
Sea turtles.
really what Spatial was initially designed to do, was bring, you can see our co-founders here, Anand,
that's
who's
really
there
cool.
in person on
You
stage.
can even click into one of these
Jinha,
bundles
who's
and they
there
expand
as
into
his
a
avatar,
full-blown internet search.
bringing content
Every
and
object you see in
designing,
Spatial
a
is
new,
physical and
new
tactile.
Mattel toy together.
So you
You're
can
bringing
scroll
content to
through
get inspired
or
in
pick
how
up
to
images
design
you
those
like
toys.
and toss
A
them
new
up on the
version
wall
of
with
those toys.
physics.
They can easily bring content
I
and
just
lay it
pull up
around
those
the room.
photos and hit
And this
send.
is kind of where the namesake of Spatial comes from, in the sense
And they're
that
instantly
it's
transformed into this
spatial
digital
computing.
environment.
Your computer
It's so
isn't
easy to fill
how
up your
you
room with
work your
ideas.
computer
So we built
isn't
this tool to
limited
help
to
you
the 2D
quickly organize
screens,
all these
but
ideas.
it can actually be
So Spatial
take
and
over your
HoloLens
entire
are
room,
helping
and you're
us
not
drive
limited to a
improvements in
single
our
display.
digital design and
So
development
this is how
process,
Spatial
changing the
was
way
really
we create
initially
new
built
toys.
for, and that evolved obviously incredibly over time to where we're at today. Another cool example I'll show is, oops, accidentally keep clicking stop sharing. Is just a kind of a prototype that we had built a little while ago when we were again focused on this kind of collaborative nature of Spatial. But it's looking at what if we could bring in not just avatars of people, but like actual an actual live stream of, say, your room or your colleagues in office into Spatial with you. So you can wear an AR headset, and these are the types of headsets that are coming soon from companies like Facebook and Apple. But actually look over to your right and you see a 3D live stream of your colleagues, of your friends sitting there next to you. It really feels like you're in the same room together. This obviously is like evolved incredibly over time, where we're no longer focused on that use case. What we saw happen with Spatial was really, it was at the beginning of last year, people were coming into Spatial and not bringing in their 3D models for work or images and videos for work, but artists were coming in and bringing in their NFTs and their art. And just since we're all at home during COVID, artists, of course, like many of yourselves, needed a way to have that art experience and shared with other people and have that feeling of not just looking at it on Instagram or, you know, on a marketplace, but actually being in the same room together and having that sense you get when you go to like a museum or, you know, a physical space together and look at art, or go to a concert together and have that sense of presence with other people. We have a lot of people doing that organically on the platform. So much it started happening organically, so that we started to say, hey, what if we added, you know, MetaMask integration, or what if we added the ability to not just use one of the templates that we have in the VR version of Spatial, but what if we enabled you to create your own 3D models and your own tools and just simply bring them into Spatial, just like this Dive Live stage. And this started to evolve more and more over time. We added Spatial on the web, which is now how most people use Spatial today. That's how I'm using it right now, even though I've got my VR headset next to me. I'm using Spatial here in my Chrome browser on my Mac. And that just evolved so much over time, where most of the people who turned out to be using Spatial were creators and artists, and people just trying to build communities and find other like-minded people like them, whether that's around sustainability, whether that's around photography, whatever that might be. And so much to the point where last December, we kind of really, I would say, went public. You know, we don't like to say pivoted, but really went public with the platform. And that's where I think a lot of people here in the room discovered us, was back in December. So we'd actually been around a long time, and had built up the technology over many years, but really started to focus on bringing in more creators and making this platform open and accessible to more and more people, to the sense that now we have spaces, again, like the one we're in, and then like all the ones that we have all around us in these portals here, which are really, really cool. So I think a cool one to start with if you're going to want to follow me, we can start with the immersive kind, which is over, if you're facing me, it's to your right, to my left. Over here, we can go through this portal. And just before we go in, just in case some of this, I don't have full admin access to all these spaces. These are ones that I've seen and I thought are really, really cool. And I wanted to highlight. So I haven't been able to put portals back into the dive live stage. So as we go into them, we're going to come back here and then go to the next portal. In case that room doesn't have a portal back here, if you're on your browser, you can simply hit the back button in your browser, just like any other web page, and you'll be actually taken back to the previous room, which is this room. If you're on mobile, you will have, if we're not able to put a portal in there, you will have to go back to the home screen and then find the dive live stage again under your spaces tab to come back in and go to the next. But we'll go around here in a clockwise fashion. But let's come on here to Immersive Kind and check out this beautiful space. So come follow me. You can just click on the portal and then hit click travel. Be able to transport through the portal. Awesome. Wait for some people to come in. Looks like someone ended up behind the wall. Oh, looks like some people are coming in. Let's get people another minute here. You can get loose. You got the 1 through 5 keys on your keyboard if you want to dance. Just get loose a little bit as we come in. But let's come in here into the main space. You can follow me into the front door. That's the trees and the grass. So this is a space that just went live recently. It was created by Studio Multi, an incredible architecture firm in the UK. And our friends at the Immersive Kind, who do a lot with metaverse fashion and design. And they designed the space. Of course, this kind of goes against the, no 4 walls and a roof kind of aesthetic, because this is, of course, 4 walls and a roof. But I think it's still a really, really beautiful space. I mean, I personally love this kind of architecture and design. These kind of big warehouses that are repurposed. And then even adding in this kind of overgrown nature in the entryway, kind of what if nature is overtaking the venue. And also as a soft spot for me in terms of having a feeling of being outside while being inside, so having trees inside, in architecture is something I personally like a lot, so I thought it was really cool. But the idea of this space is to be really multi-purpose. So to kind of be, a very unique venue, but also really beautiful, but also host many events and then really grow over time. So if you follow me, we can come down. It's going to get a little noisy because of the music. We can go down to the rainbow stage, the rainbow runway. So we can just walk down the rainbow runway here. This stage is being used as an art, as a fashion runway, a fashion show. So there has been and there will be more fashion events that are going to be hosted here, art fairs. There's actually a photography exhibition that was hosted in here recently. And then you can see all the doorways off to the side. These are going to be expanded over time. So though this main space was just launched recently, and I'm walking and talking, even though this main stage was just launched recently, there's going to be portals to new room. There's going to be a crystal gallery that's being designed and will be launched. So as new events and new things happen in the space is extensible over time, which is really, really cool. So this main space can action is sort of like a lobby. People can come in here, can see the art, and then as events happen, they can go through portals to different areas in kind of the side galleries off to the side, which in each of them will have a different theme. They're actually going to correspond to the different colors on the rainbow runway. So you'll have the red room, you'll have the like I said, the crystal or silver room, blue room, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's just a really beautiful space that when kind of real world architects in fashion come together, we can have these really beautiful, really massive spaces. And this isn't even one of the biggest spaces that there are in Spatial. We'll see some of those soon. But I thought this is a really cool space. And by the way, if anyone has like questions or thoughts or anything at any point, like 100% feel free to like shout them out. Like I want this to be interactive. No questions? No questions?
I have a question. Hey Jake, how's it going, man? I got a question. You can have up to 50 people in the lounge, right? When do you guys plan on increasing those numbers? I think Jake's muted.
Oh, sorry. I was talking and no one heard me. I got muted for a second. Sorry about that. So we did actually launch support for scale via instancing. We soft launched it, so we haven't publicly announced it yet, but we have rolled that out. So now your spaces can actually support, if you have Spatial Pro, you can actually support multiple hundreds of users in your space via instancing, or what we call overflow groups. So as you reach 50 people in your space, we'll create a new copy of that space automatically, and new people that join will put in the next instances of that space. You can actually have many more people in that space. Oh, sorry.
That's amazing. Good news.
Yeah, really exciting. Oh, sorry, I keep getting muted. If there's no other questions, we can move to the next room. I don't have access here, so if you're on your web browser, which it looks like a lot of you are, some of you might be on mobile, you can simply hit the back button on your web browser, and we'll go back to the Dive Live stage. Pull a little bit of an audible because I just thought of another space that would be really cool to check out. So apologize to Camilo and team. I'm going to bring in this portal here in between the two called Safari. Get this up here. Safari is a really cool space. I'm going to wait for some people to come back in. And we have this sticky note. I'll move this over here so they know where we're going. But yeah, let's go to Safari next. So I talked in terms of like large spaces. Safari is actually probably one of the largest spaces on Spatial in terms of sheer like size. So hopefully we don't get lost. We don't get separated as a group. But if we do, you can always meet us back here at the Dive Live stage. But let's head to Safari next. Yeah, you're only seeing a part of it here. This is absolutely massive. We're just gonna gather here in the tent, wait for everyone to join. Looks like people are joining up in the sky. Strange. You guys are up in the sky over there. You can come over here to the tent behind you here. There we go. Yeah. Like reducing like the load time basically between spaces. Our team is always. Yeah. So we are working on something that'll be kind of like an instant load version of Spatial pretty soon. It'll be more focused on like art galleries and things like that. So you'd be able to load in to Spatial sort of like we're not going to call it, but like kind of single player mode just by yourself, and the environment itself can load up basically instantly. And then if you wanted to go into sort of multiplayer mode, basically see other people in the space, you'll load that in as well. So that will be actually part of sort of the loading screen is to load into the space basically pretty instantly. So that should be the loading experience will get much better very soon here in Spatial. Yeah, for sure. So this space, I think we got everyone in here. The two of you who are somehow floating in the sky. If you want to click down here on the floor near the tent, you can come join us here in the tent. But this space was designed by our friends. We're getting the advanced flying features, which haven't launched yet. Something I don't know how they got. But basically, so this space was designed by our friends at M2 Studios, and it was designed for photographer Steve Cannon, who's a wildlife photographer. And the idea was, how can we extend his photography into the virtual space and the metaverse? What would it be like to be able to be transported into the places where he does his photography? Most people can go on crazy African safaris and take wonderful photography, but how can we basically give people that experience and get a sense of what it's like to go on an African safari, all from the comfort of your own home? So this space is basically, it goes almost as far as you can see. Well, you can't go up the mountain in the background, unfortunately. It's not that big, but it is really huge. Of course, you have this beautiful tent, and the hot tub and the fire pit at the back. We have wildlife all around us. They're actually moving. So you have zebras and antelope and many other kinds of animals, and we can go up to them. So if you follow me, I'm going to go out this way, and there's actually a whole other section, a whole other structure in this space too. So it's not just this tent. So let's come over this way. You can't get in the car yet. Hopefully that'll be a feature that comes soon where we can drive vehicles around. I definitely would love to do that. But in a future update, we hope to enable drivable views. So you can click far away to teleport. It might take us a couple of minutes to walk all the way there. But we can walk up to these antelope, I believe they're antelope, and say hi. If you want to pet the antelope, they won't bite or anything. They're not aggressive, so don't fear. You can get close to them. They're very friendly. And then when you're done saying hi to those guys, we can continue on up the hill. Feel free to click further away to teleport, since it might take a minute. And just come up over this hill, over here. And there's a whole other building over here. And don't forget to stop by and say hi to the zebras as well.
This is awesome.
So everyone you can make their way inside the building here, and this is the gallery. So this is Steve Cannon's museum basically within this space. So again, the concept of what if you had your own museum, your own gallery, what would we want it to look like? This was Steve's design that our friends at N2 Studios put together in essentially his dream gallery space. Right in the middle of the African tundra, and all the photos you see around here, like the lion, the elephant. Really, as you move through the space, all the photos are his photos. So it's a great space to host events, to show off his photography. We've actually, for Earth Day last month, or I believe it was April, hosted some events in this space from our friends at Zoo Life, who do webcam feeds from different zoos and talks from zoologists around the world. Hosted their event here in this space, which was a really, really incredible experience. Feel free to have a walk around, look at the photos. If you want a quicker way to look at the photos, you can enter cinema tour mode. So if you hit the play button at the bottom of the window, or hit the enter key on your keyboard, you'll be entered into cinema tour mode, and that'll instantly take you from one piece to the next in a really, really nice kind of slideshow type mode. So feel free to take that out. If you have any questions, I'll be here in the courtyard. I'll give everyone, let's say 2-3 minutes to take in the photos and take in the whole environment. But if you have questions, I'm here in the middle of the courtyard. Happy to answer any questions or just chat. There was a limit, but in a recent update, we actually lifted that limit. So there is no limits to how large you can make your space. It can be infinitely large in dimension.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. The only limit is a technical limitation of 60 megabytes for a 3D file size, and then we have our recommended specs in terms of if you're a 3D modeler, in terms of poly counts, in terms of texture size, all those things, and that's a technical limitation, so that the environment and the model would perform well across the platforms that support. But in terms of physical dimensions, there's no limitation. Sure thing.
Hello. I had one question that has to do with interaction of objects.
Sure.
I noticed that in the chairs before, in the tent, that we could put it down. If someone wants to upload their own furniture, could you add this feature? Like, let's say I will add my own chairs. Could I make them be sittable, interactive?
That's a great question. So, of course, you can import any 3D model into Spatial and decorate the space with. Having a separate 3D model be interactable or sittable, I guess, if that's the right word, is that's a good question. It wouldn't technically be possible right now that seat or chair would have to technically be part of the environment model that you're in. So when it's set as the environment, it would have to be part of that same model file. But having a separate sittable chair is a great piece of feedback and great question. Something we should definitely think about adding.
Okay, thank you. So these chairs that we sat upon, they were part of the design of the environment, let's say.
Exactly. Yep. And then if you're creating that environment in say a tool like Blender, we have it in our documentation. Show you how to add like a seating hotspot into the model.
Cool. Oh, cool. That's very cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. So I think. So sounds. So I think in this space, which the first sound that was newly added into this space, that can simply be just an MP4 file that can be dropped into the space and then placed in a location, like kind of hidden in a wall or something like that. So that's how you can add sound to the space. Awesome. Yeah, get some ocean noises, like some whales going by or something like that. Like that would be so cool. So speaking of the Sunken Blimp Stage, let's head back there. If everyone's done checking this space out, just again hit the back button on your in your browser. All right, so the next place we'll go to, kind of moving right along. I'll wait for some more folks to get in here. Oops, I moved one of your arches here. Trying to move the sticky note. There we go. There we go. Oh, you guys are live updating the space. I love it. So now, the next space we'll go to. It'll be a smaller space, but I think a really cool one around focused on sports. So we're going to go into the Gujarat Titans locker room. So let's follow me in here and I'll tell you all about it.
That's me.
Awesome. Welcome. All right, so this is, we're getting some more people coming to the space here. So this is, like I said, the locker room for the Gujarat Titans. The Gujarat Titans are a new cricket team in India, part of the Indian Premier League. So they actually, like I said, they're new. So one of the ways they wanted to be introduced to the world, introduce the IPL fans, is by having a metaverse experience. So the first thing I did was launch a video and experience showing off the new logo for the team. And then they launched this locker room, which was also used as a way to meet and greet fans, have fans meet and greet the players on the team. Both being the players being in here as their avatars, live, like we're in here live, but then also being able to go up to the different lockers, learn about each of the players, meet other fellow fans, no matter where they were across India, across the world, and have this kind of central place to meet up. So it's a really cool kind of sports activation within Spatial and really within the metaverse. And we've seen a lot of other sports teams do something similar. From like the Utah Jazz, we're working on some things with the NHL and some other athletes and teams as well. So it's becoming a really innovative way for players to really comfortably meet with fans. They can do it, between innings at a baseball game. In theory, they can do it, during practice. They can pop open their phone, go into the virtual space, meet with fans, kind of do a virtual meet and greet. Do even virtual press conferences and things like that. All these things are becoming possible. And as you can see, there's other portals here in the space as well, where you can go into the Titans dugout on the field, on the pitch, and kind of see what it feels like to be on the pitch on a cricket pitch. You go into their stadium and get it's over here on this portal, and stand in kind of a VIP lounge in their stadium, see a model of the stadium, learn more about the team, about the stadium itself. So having each of these dedicated spaces to learn about different aspects of the team, different aspects of the organization, is pretty cool. This has become one of our more popular spaces on Spatial, because they have even though they're a new team, they have such a huge fan base across India and across the world. I mean, cricket, as many of you probably know, is such a huge sport across the world, that we've seen a lot of interest in these types of spaces. Thank you. Any questions or thoughts or cheers? We can clap. I love it. Not the cool ambient music in the space like we have in the other one. If there's, go. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all depends, because it can vary so widely, right? Depending on, you can have a lot of content in the space and it'll load really smoothly. You can have very little in the content in the space, and it can be a very poor loading experience, regardless of your internet connection. A lot of it can be just the device itself. You can have one model in the space that has many objects within that model, and then in VR, that can be very hard for a VR headset to render. Get some performance problems there. So it's really always hard to say, what works best. I think in this particular example, even the jerseys and all the different most of the components and the imagery of the players is separate, but like the models of the jerseys are all part of the environment model. And if you're able to, as much of the environment as you're able to condense into a single model, always helps in terms of load time, because you're loading a single model versus trying to load a lot of individual objects. But we're continuously updating Spatial on the back end to improve performance time and do things like smart caching, optimizing files on load and on import, so that things load faster no matter what device or connection you're on. And if there's no other questions here, I think we have one more space we're going to go check out. So we can head back to the Dive Live stage, and we'll go check out a really cool company headquarters. So let's head back there. I'll meet you there. All right. So the last one we'll go to today is Archeo's headquarters. We'll wait for some more people to come back upstairs. And this sticky note so people know where we're going. Oh, people are trying to move it. So this next one is also a really, really huge space. Not as, I don't know if it's as big as Safari, but it's pretty big. It was recently designed, recently launched, and actually kind of harkens back to, the concept of a virtual company headquarters on Spatial. So let's go check it out. It's a really, really nice space. Welcome everybody. This is Archeo's headquarters. So Archeo, a recent partner of ours at Spatial, friend of ours, they're actually have a really awesome platform for those of you who want to create virtual spaces, but maybe don't have the experience with advanced tools like Blender or 3ds Max or anything like that. Archeo is a really great platform that allows you to build 3D environments, 3D models all in VR. No code, anything like that, all using just your 2 hands and 2 controllers to build spaces. So this environment is their new headquarters. They're a dispersed remote team. Their headquarters that they're using in Spatial, and it's actually all built in Archeo, the entire thing. So it's a really, really big space. There's different components to it. You can see to my left, there's a little bit of red accents there. That is a really amazing art gallery we can go check out. Straight ahead, where you can see the Archeo logo in red, is a incredible auditorium space that's really unique, a really incredible stage. And then to my right, there's actually a little forest area and some meeting spaces that people can use to meet and chat with one another. So we can go over to the gallery. You can see they have this really cool map of this particular building we're in. And then the art gallery is actually going to be downstairs. There's actually 2 galleries. They're actually going to be downstairs. If you come over here and come down the steps here, there's one gallery outside that has photos of different architecture that's built, I believe, in Archeo. Some cool 3D architecture in here as well. And then under the floor where you just walked in, all about Iceland. And that's the country I've had the pleasure of visiting myself, and it's an absolutely beautiful country. And the team from Archeo is actually from Iceland. So this is a little nod to their home. But I really love about this is, of course, it's beautiful imagery on the walls all throughout the space, but then the integration of the map of Iceland in the floor of the space, and then actually with kind of a numbered reference for each of the photos in the space and where it is geographically in Iceland. Here along where I'm standing is the southern coast of Iceland, and that's actually where a lot of when you go and visit, that's where a lot of the tourist sites are and a lot of the beautiful geography is, whereas the north coast tends to be more remote, but still, from what I hear, equally as beautiful. But I think this is just a really cool art gallery, and it's just amazing to see the Archeo team integrate or having want to integrate an art gallery into their company headquarters. So I thought that was a really, really nice addition. So feel free to take a look at the art here in the space, have a look around, and then go and explore the whole headquarters, the whole campus. There's a lot to explore. You can spend like hours explore all the different nooks and crannies of this space. And let me know if you find the helicopter, because I hear there's a helicopter in here too. So if you find that, let me know, because I think that's a pretty cool little feature they added to those things. And those are the spaces I wanted to show you guys. I think we'll leave it here. I'll hang out for a couple of minutes. If you have any questions about this space, about anything, when it comes to metaverse architecture, spatial, life advice, if you want, I'm going to hang out for a couple of minutes, but feel free to explore. And thanks for stopping by the Dive Live talk today. Yeah, you can see where I'm at, exactly. I love that.
Is there a way to, bring in models that don't have the lighting already built into them, to adjust the lighting using some environment in spatial? Like, I saw something about adjusting the lights, but I haven't really dealt with it in depth any.
Sure. Yeah, that's a question we get a lot of. Real-time lighting, like, to be like totally transparent, can be a very technically complicated problem to implement on platforms that are running, on the different platforms we support, like in your web browser, etc. So right now, any lighting that you see, like in this space or in other spaces that we've been in, like the Safari and others, and we've been to Safari, we've been to the Immersive Kind, we've been to many places. Those that have shadows and things like that typically have the light baked to the textures in the model, and we always recommend doing that, in tools like Blender, etc. Implementing real-time lighting or having some lighting options is something that we're looking into in a way that can still be performance, on a range of web browsers and devices, mobile phones, etc. Because that can cause a lot of computational strain on devices, even still today in 2022. So we're working through that, and we definitely want to make more lighting options available to our community.
Appreciate that.
For sure.
Hello.
Hello.
I wanted to say that I really enjoyed this presentation, and it made me think a lot about how we navigate the spaces, like especially these spaces that are very vast. And it was very interesting that the further we went from you, we couldn't hear you anymore. That was like a very interesting feature that is built in Spatial, right? It was happening on purpose, right?
Yes, that was on purpose. That's a setting called spatial audio fall off, spatialized audio, basically mimicking sound just like in the real world, right? The closer you are to someone, easier just to hear them further away. And the idea there is to help with, natural breakout sessions or natural breakout conversations. So you can have, even in this room, we can each go to 4 corners in the room and have separate conversations with one another. That is a feature you can turn on and off.
Okay.
If you have owner access of the spaces we went into, most of them I didn't have that owner access, so couldn't make that change. But you can turn that off. So for example, if you wanted sort of like a megaphone type of talk, if you're in a room full of people, you can turn that off, and then everyone can hear you in the space. But yes, that's very nice that you noticed that little subtle feature.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that it just makes me think the whole, I haven't had any other experiences like in spaces like that, and it makes me think that, like how some of some of the actions that we do in real life we want to integrate in the digital space because it's more convenient, like the spatial sound and the navigation is like walking normally, the gravity and all that. And it would be interesting that in some spaces not to have them, like to delete them or change them, to have a completely different experience. But it just makes me think that like how we always want to make everything more human and anthropomorphize like the experience to be more comfortable for everybody, like the sense. Just a thought.
Yeah.
But very, very nice presentation. Bravo.
Thank you so much.
Jake, I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah. Have you ever think like in futures updates, maybe integrate more like real life features, something like maybe drive in spatial, like in a car, or maybe have some eat, so you can go to a restaurant and eat or drink some coffee. So those kind of things that we have in real life. Have you ever think like implement in spatial and sometime it will be very possible?
Yeah, definitely. We've heard feedback like that before. The benefit of eating food in the metaverse is that there's no calories, so you can really gorge yourself on a Big Mac and not have to worry about it, which I think is the most exciting feature of that. But yeah, having more interactivity and kind of adding to the immersiveness in the spaces is definitely something that we're thinking about and looking into adding. Potentially starting later this year or early next. Since we don't have an API or an SDK or anything like that, looking into how we can enable creators to add those types of interactivity into spaces, still being really accessible and easy to use, is definitely what we definitely plan to have at some point. Don't have a time frame on it yet. Was there something specific, like a space that you're trying to create or an experience you're looking to have where that could be beneficial?
Well, I see just I know that maybe it don't have so many sense to like drive or eat in the metaverse. I think it's more like a space where you can join people and have a talk. But yeah, I think maybe if I can sell to someone like I want to have a coffee with you on the metaverse. Would you like to join me or something like that? Yeah, it would be pretty interesting feature maybe.
Yeah, for sure. I know in VR, if you join in VR, you can, since you have the controllers in there that are tracked to your hand, you can reach into and grab any object and hold it in your hand. That's an interaction that can be a little more complicated on the web since we don't have a way to track your hand movements per se. But in VR, it's actually pretty cool to have a coffee cup on the table, or if you go into your spatial home, there's a mug on the table. If you go in VR, you can reach out and grab it and hold it and kind of drink your invisible coffee or whatever it is, invite people into your home space and do that. So there, in VR, that's actually possible to do that today, and it's pretty cool.
Great. Amazing talk, Jake. Personally, I think this is my favorite from all the spaces we visit today.
Amazing. Yeah, this is a really great space. Well, awesome. Well, if there's no other questions, I'm going to head out, but if you feel free, you'll find me on our Discord. We also, we have our Twitter and our Instagram. I'm partially, I'm active on those as well. So you can definitely find me on those if you have any other experience for you guys. So thanks so much. We need a bow. I know we need a bow feature. I'm going to kind of bow. Thanks, everybody.